Welcome back. In just a day's time, the world's gaze will turn to a summit where two of the most isolated leaders on earth will step into the spotlight. We are talking about North Korea's Kim Jong Un and Russia's Vladimir Putin and their meeting in Vladivostok. Kim Jong Un's rare journey abroad after more than 4 years is causing curiosity across the world. Question is, what's behind his intriguing Russian rendezvous? Well, it's the likelihood of game-changing military agreements that could have far-reaching consequences on Ukraine and beyond. Pyongyang may bring to the table ammunition, rocket systems, and short-range ballistic missiles, potentially aiding Russia's ongoing aggression in Ukraine. In return, Russia may offer North Korea the lifeline it desperately needs, be it grain, oil, technology, or hard currency. But both sides deny any official arms deal, keeping the intrigue alive. Now, this isn't the first time that these leaders have met. Back in 2019, they convened under different circumstances, with Kim Jong Un seeking Putin's assistance in navigating a nuclear standoff with the US. Fast forward to today. Both Putin and Kim find themselves increasingly isolated on the world stage, united by a shifting geopolitical landscape. Their evolving relationship, driven by Putin's need for support in a time of war and Kim's quest for international recognition, draws parallels with the age-old saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Yes, it's the United States that unites these two leaders in a complex dance of diplomacy and strategy. The White House, on its part, voiced concerns over the growing military collaboration between Russia and North Korea. Just this Monday, Washington reiterated its warning to Pyongyang against selling arms to Russia for use in the Ukraine conflict, urging North Korea to uphold its promise not to engage in such transactions. The US State Department underscores that any arms transfer from North Korea to Russia is a breach of the Security Council resolutions. Fact is, North Korea stands out as one of the few nations openly supporting Russia since the Ukraine invasion. And Mr. Putin has pledged to bolster bilateral ties across the board. It's a case of likely allies coming together. Now, let's delve into another fascinating aspect of Kim Jong Un's journey to Russia. Both in 2019 and today, he embarked on a 20-hour journey aboard his renowned bulletproof train, a tradition that was observed by North Korean leaders in the past as well, specifically his father. The train, donned in green and yellow, is no speed demon. It chugs along at a very leisurely pace of about 50 kilometers an hour, which is a stark contrast to modern locomotives. With its 90 carriages and tinted windows shrouding the identities of those on board, it's earned the moniker a moving fortress. And what was on board this fortress for Kim? Everything from French wine to fresh lobsters, ensuring that this journey is nothing short of regal. Now, whether the outcomes of this meeting will be as rich for both countries, we will simply have to wait and watch. Maroof Raza is the group consulting editor at the Times Network. He's joining us on the broadcast. Maroof Raza, how do we look at this meeting that is scheduled for for after a couple of hours? How should the world read it? How should India read it?
Well, there are a couple of dimensions to it. The first is Mr. Putin is looking for friends and allies. Traditionally, Russia has had tight relations with North Korea, but they cooled off in between. But now Kim is looking for support and friends, and so is Mr. Putin. Russia is quite clearly being supported by China from behind the back, which is also the mentor of North Korea. Now, why is Russia going to North Korea? Why is North Korea coming to Russia? One is that Russia has run out of ammunition in its very foolishly implemented military operation, where they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, but after over a year and a half, they've achieved very little in terms of what Putin and his army boasted about. It's a botched up military operation. Sheer force per se is not going to allow the Russians to extend their writ across all of Ukraine. Second thing is, Russia is getting well endowed with funds because of its increasing oil sales. Today, outside of OPEC, Russia is the biggest exporter of oil and gas. And that has been bringing in money to Russia directly, indirectly. Even the Europeans are buying from Russia via China. And so, therefore, Russia has the money that Kim needs desperately to feed his people and revive his economy, because classically he's been another economic dark hole as far as the world is concerned. Thirdly, Kim needs a certain amount of strategic heft to be able to continue to brandish his threats. Many years ago, when he first talked about nuclear weapons, he managed to buy out a deal with the Americans for about $5 billion. And then his attempt to get a deal with President Trump fell flat. So he went back to Vladivostok, as you rightly said, in that famous green train of his, and to try and find ways forward for North Korea's agenda. Now, what is North Korea's agenda? North Korea's agenda is to become part of an axis of China, Russia, North Korea, and they are really the axis of evil, not so much as Iran. America is obsessed with the 1979 botched up special forces operation in Iran. So they have named Iran a kind of devil's house, which is nonsense. And finally, and most importantly, North Korea doesn't have stockpiles of ammunition of the size that Putin might need to do another year's operation. But he'll give him some relief till Mr. Putin is able to add to his stocks by energizing his manufacturing at home. Now, all this is about guns and missiles.
Maroof, that is the question I was coming to. Exactly. That is exactly what I was coming to. Maroof, can I just interrupt you here? That is exactly the question I was asking you, was going to ask you. Point is, why would Russia need North Korea's missiles and arms, given the fact that Russia is one of the largest producers of arms in this world?
No. You see, arms are divided into various categories. You have nuclear weapons. They're like हाथी के दांत. दिखाने के लिए हैं, खाने के लिए नहीं. Then there are long-range missile systems, which can be called ICBMs, transatlantic, and they are devastating. Again, you cannot use that for too long and too effectively, both because they're devastating and they're very expensive. So what Russia needs is medium, small range rockets, missiles, etc. Much of it with North Korea is part of a collaborative effort between Russia and North Korea for many years in the past, and Chinese support and Chinese technology, which China is a master of giving from behind the back and giving a poker face look to say we've done nothing wrong. So that's what Mr. Putin is looking for, what in military terms we call as force multipliers. So apart from that, bullets and bombs, etc., Russia would have enough. But that's not going to change the course of battle in Ukraine. What Russia needs to do is, and I've been saying that for more than a year, when they made their initial gains, that is when they should have waved the white flag and say, okay, now let's sit down and talk and draw a line somewhere that we save further devastation. But the problem for Russia has not been just Russia. The problem for Russia has been two elements. One is the Orthodox Church in Russia, which is prodding Putin on to make him believe that Russia's future lies in its past. Russia must become the Russia of 9th, 10th century. Without Ukraine, Russia will not be an empire. It'll be a powerful military state. And the other is the United States and its allies. They have got, as always, the most number of think tanks in the world, but they can't seem to think straight. They have gone and come up with an assessment that we will drive Putin into a hole, and that's how we'll finish off Russia as a challenge to Europe. Superpowers like Russia don't disappear. They will be around for a long, long time. Maybe not with the kind of fear that they used to exercise earlier, but they will have the ability to still do considerable damage to Western Europe. So the West has to come up with a new narrative on how to try and strike a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and somebody has to step up and be a mediator. I had said that earlier also, but
All right.
obviously my word counts for little. Here was India's chance to be a
All right,
possible
Maroof,
person on the table to strike a peace deal, because India has good relations with Moscow. It has good relations with Russia. And Ukraine has been looking to India also for some help. So if India could get the talks going and leave the Europeans and the others to sort out the Central European conflict, then India, again, after the success of G20, could have another feather in its cap. So until then, Putin is going to be looking for
Maroof,
friends,
I'm out
but
of time.
not too many friends.
Yeah. I'm out of time, but I think you've put it very well. What is Mr. Putin doing, meeting up with Kim? Well, Mr. Putin needs friends, and there are things that North Korea needs from Mr. Putin as well. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much, Maroof Raza, for joining us here on the broadcast.
Pleasure.
From
Pleasure.
Geopolitics, I'm